Hello, San Parish, and welcome to this week's Quick Things. We're changing it up a little bit this week. Normally, I make the quick announcements right up front and then go into a conversation, but we're going to have a conversation right off the bat, and then I will have some announcements and some reflections on a few other things. When I am done talking or conversing with Kendall Gulo, who is my guest today, to talk about something that many St. Anne's parishioners are very familiar with, but a lot of newer parishioners would not be all that familiar with. And one thing that I discovered when I came here 5 years ago is that people talk about things as if everyone knows what they're talking about, and that may not be the case. And so one thing I want to talk to Kendall about is our tradition of fish fries, kind of as a beginner's guide to fish fry, and then we have kind of a vested interest in talking about that longtime tradition of our parish as well. First of all, Kendall, tell us a little bit about who you are.
Hi, I'm Kendall Gulo, been with the parish for about 12 years now. My wife, Holly, and I have been with the parish. We have 2 kids as well that have come up through the Newman system. Savannah was a Newman and is a junior. She just transferred, but my son is also at Newman in the middle school as well. So been working with the fish fry team for 6 or 7 years now. And I know we've taken a little break with COVID the last few years, but
when you count 6 or 7, are you counting the 2.5 years that we didn't have fish
yes,
fry?
I am. I'm counting 6.
You still had that title. You still had that title.
Yep. So yeah, it's been great. We're looking forward to hopefully getting enough surveys back to be able to do it again this year. It does take a lot of people to run the fish fry.
Well, how did you get into the role that you have? How did this happen? What's the story?
Yeah. So a number of years ago, the people that were heading up the fish fry were getting to the point where they've been doing it for quite a few years. And there was an announcement made at church that we were going to have to discontinue the fish fry if we didn't get some volunteers to be able to help out. So myself and a few others expressed some interest in it, and we've kind of taken it over from there. And we've kind of taken it a little different direction with regards to automating a number of things and making it a little bit easier to track orders and to print orders in the kitchen. And
okay.
So it simplified things a little bit. There's a little bit of speed bumps along the way, just on learning curves, but it's been good.
So you brought fish fry into the modern era, so to speak?
Yes. Yep.
For those who aren't familiar with something that, again, so many people just take for granted because it's been around for 60 years or whatever, tell us what happens on these Fridays of Lent?
Yeah, so the way we have it set up is we're able to serve fish fries to the community in 3 different ways. One, we would be able to serve them in the cafeteria downstairs at the elementary school. So people could walk in and order what they wanted and then sit down and eat here. We also offered takeout. So someone could either call ahead and order and come in and pick it up, or they can just walk down and order a takeout. And we also in the past have done deliveries. So people could call in from wherever in the city of Wausau, and we had a team that would deliver the product or deliver the food to them as well.
So you were doing that delivery of food became a big deal during COVID, but you guys were doing it long before DoorDash and things.
Absolutely.
Like
Absolutely. We had our own DoorDash going well before it was established.
You were DoorDash before DoorDash was cool.
Oh.
And so who does all this, Kendall?
Yeah, so there's a lot that goes into fish fry, and it actually starts at the beginning of the week. So we get the delivery of food in. We need volunteers throughout the entire week to be able to support this. But the food comes in, we have to get it put into coolers or freezers. And then throughout the week, on Wednesdays, we start going through and people start prepping the homemade foods, the potatoes. They could start cleaning potatoes for potato salad, the coleslaw, all the homemade items that we have, and then even coming down to stacking shrimp on a tray to get it ready to pull off and put into the fryers. So there's a lot that goes into it throughout the week. And typically takes anywhere from about 100 to 125 people a week throughout the week. And then obviously you have your night of the Friday night, where you have usually around 75 to 80 people that are helping out with that as well, between the fryers and the cleaners, dishwashers, people that are bussing tables, and people delivering food. So, and people taking the phone orders. So there's a lot that goes into it, and we're hoping that, again, with the survey, we can get some understanding of if we still have that volunteer base available to help us out to be able to do it again.
So maybe talk about that concern a little bit, Kendall, so that you and the other kind of the leadership core group or whatever have met and talked about that a little bit. I mean, that isn't a new, like, it's something that I think we're particularly curious about coming out of 2+ years without fish fry, but it really was kind of a challenge even before COVID, correct?
Yeah, so we would have the core people on our team, but then we had the core people that kind of led each of those different areas to make sure that we had the proper support needed to be able to take care of all of those little tasks that build up obviously into the main event, for say, or the actual night of the fish fry. So it has been a concern. There are some people within our parish that are a little bit older and just trying to reach out to them over or anything that how they've become, or if they're able to still support it over the last few years. And social distancing is still a concern to some people. So obviously the kitchen's only a certain size, and it's hard to fit all the people in there if you try to spread them out between the 6 foot distance or so.
Right. Well, it would pretty much be impossible, I guess.
Correct.
Reduce, how many, remind me, is it 1,000 people who are served on a normal Friday night, or were?
Yeah, on average, yeah, we've done anywhere from about 900 up to, I think the biggest night we had served was around 1,300 people. So it's a great fundraiser for the parish as well. Brings in money to help support different things.
About $30,000 a year is what profit is what we averaged the last years we did it. The last 5 or so years we did it.
Yeah. Yep. Roughly around that. So it's
a significant contribution. Yeah. So we want to encourage people to fill out the survey. It is in the email that this video leads into. The survey is also a printed version of the survey is also available, but if you're watching this video, you're online, you don't need to do the printed version, which takes more time to count. So I'm not going to tell you where to find it, but you can find it easily in the email that you're watching this. It's on the web. You can access it on the website as well. And then that will give the leadership team and the pastoral council a good understanding, we hope, of how best to proceed with fish fries in 2023. I had the date handy as to when the first one would be. Do you know that, Kendall, offhand?
I do not have it offhand. I'm just looking at my calendar here, but if you have
it would be February 24th.
Wow, that's coming fast.
Right, exactly. We come out of Christmas and Zoom. We go get ready for fish fry. Anything else you'd want to add?
No, I just encourage everybody to go out, take the survey, and please give us your feedback. I know we get a number of people every year about this time asking, are you doing fish fries again? So this is your chance, right, to go out and support it, and we can get the volunteers that we need. We'll definitely be doing it again this year.
My favorite, Kendall's also on the pastoral council, and we had a meeting last week or the week before, I guess. And Sandy Gilgy, who's been very involved in the fish fry project for, I'm sure, I don't want to say what number, I don't want to guess, but she told us she was at Menards recently, and someone said, aren't you the fish fry lady at St. Anne's? Are you going to have fish fries this year? So, So there we are. Thank you, Kendall. Yep, exactly. Well, thank you very much for talking with me, but more importantly, thank you for your leadership in this program, and we'll see how things turn out in the surveys, right?
Sounds great. Thank you.
Thanks, Kendall. Everybody else stick around. Kendall gets to go do what other important things he has to do, but I want to talk about a few parish news items and then some other reflections, some sharing of some family news and things like that. First of all, this coming Sunday is our second of the October Share Sundays, collecting items for the Salvation Army. The list of items that are needed that we're collecting is in the email as well as in the worship aid. This coming Sunday, I suspect a lot of Packer fans know the Packers, coming off of their big win against New England last Sunday, are headed to London to play the New York Giants. Why they have to go all the way to London to play a team that, is like a 2.5-hour plane ride away, I'm not sure, but that's something the NFL is doing. And now the Packers have been swept into this London experience as well. So they will be playing at 8:30 a.m. on Sunday. This has created great consternation, especially for a lot of Protestant churches who only worship on Sunday morning. They have never experienced the conflict of worship and the Green Bay Packers. Whereas Catholics, especially like our parish with the Sunday night mass, we have a conflict with the Packers playing at 6 o'clock mass like every other weekend. So that's nothing new to us. But an 8:30 morning game in London, there may be a lot of energy about that, excitement that people may have in terms of watching the game. And so we're left with the dilemma. How do we choose between the Green Bay Packers and Jesus or our participation at Mass? Fortunately, we have two important options. So 8:30 and 10:30 are going to be tied up with Packer games if you're able to find it. And I think how it's available on TV may be problematic with this London thing. But be that as it may, of course, we have Mass at 4 o'clock on Saturday and 6 p.m. on Sunday. The two times when there sometimes are conflicts with Packer games. Well, this weekend, those are wide open for you. So maybe skip 8:30, 10:30, stay home, watch the Packers in your pajamas, and join us for Mass at 4 and 6 p.m. But if you're interested in what another church might be doing to balance, or not balance, how they are incorporating the Packer game with their worship, I have included a link to a conversation that the Wisconsin Council of Churches did. It's a series that they offer, similar to my conversations with people. This was the pastor of United Methodist Church in Oshkosh, who they're going all out in connecting their Sunday morning worship, which will start at 8:30, just like the Packer game theoretically does. They will start at 8:30 and they will worship and cheer as they go through the morning. So you can watch that video with the Quick Things email. That'll give you an idea of what they're doing. I think there's also a TV channel, Fox 11 in Green Bay did a story about them. So I'll include that as well. It's a little shorter probably than the full conversation. I've also included in the Quick Things email this week a link to another Wisconsin Council of Churches conversation with one of the organizers of a New Neighbors project, a refugee resettlement sponsorship project among some churches in the Racine area. And we know a good amount about our experience of welcoming new neighbors, but I thought it was an interesting conversation, I thought, and I'll share that for those who are interested in getting a sense of what another a collection of churches in the Racine area, how their experience of welcoming new neighbors has been. Several feasts, important feasts of significant figures in our church are celebrated this week. Of course, Wednesday, today, if you're watching this on Wednesday, is the feast of St. Francis of Assisi. No, actually Tuesday, I'm sorry. Tuesday was the feast of St. Francis of Assisi. And Pope Francis used that occasion to introduce a documentary, which I have not had a chance to watch it yet, but looks amazing. It's entitled The Letter. And the letter that it refers to is Laudato Si, which was his encyclical addressing our planet, our common home, as he describes it. And what the documentary does is focus on 4 people in different parts of the world who come together to talk about our planet, our common home, with Pope Francis. Someone from Senegal, the Amazon, from India, and from Hawaii. And then they address how climate change and other challenges confronting our planet, how those are affecting the poor indigenous populations. I think that'll probably be the Amazon situation, young people, and wildlife or nature. The video is available on YouTube. It is available for free. The link to the video is included with the this week's Quick Things email, and I would imagine I'll include that for several weeks. And hopefully, so again, you can find it on YouTube. You don't have to keep this email, but just to have an easy springboard to that video. And you can watch, when you watch something on YouTube and you pause it, you go back and it'll pick up where you paused it, even though it could be several days later and you've plugged out of YouTube. And so hopefully we can take advantage of this great opportunity, this world premiere of the letter, and kind of a spiritual, a video reflection, spiritual reflection on Pope Francis's encyclical Laudato Si. So again, connecting that with the feast of St. Francis of Assisi, who is regarded as such a great, of having such a great spiritual connection to nature and to the presence of God in nature. On Sunday, we celebrate again, the day of the great Packer Giants game in London. The church celebrates the feast of St. John Henry Newman. Now, because it is Sunday, it would not be celebrated in most places, but seeing that we have a connection to St. John Henry Newman by virtue of our connection to Newman Catholic schools, our prayers for the Mass will come from those of the feast of John Henry Newman. And also our opening and closing song will be one of his popular prayer texts, Lead Kindly Light. St. John Henry Newman was a very significant presence in the church in the 1800s, but really his influence became even more pronounced in the Catholic Church in the 1960s as the bishops of the world gathered for the Second Vatican Council. His wisdom on church and how all the pieces of the body of Christ are meant to collaborate and be part of the church. So an interesting detail about St. John Henry Newman is we celebrate his feast on Sunday, which is October 9th, which is the day that he converted from Anglicanism to Roman Catholicism. So he was part of the Anglican Church in England. So quite a major, development when this legendary man became a Roman Catholic. But Newman saw in the Roman Catholic Church a fuller perspective or fuller manifestation of the church that Jesus had imagined. And we celebrate his feast. Normally we celebrate a saint's feast on the day of their death, the day of their birth into eternal life. We celebrate Newman's feast on the day of his conversion because the day of his death, August 9th, is the feast of St. Clare, and she would always overwhelm him. We would probably never celebrate the feast of John Henry Newman because St. Clare would be regarded as most important. So that was chosen. A little Newman trivia as to why we celebrate his feast when we do. I've included in the Quick Things email a link to some prayers of John Henry Newman and also a nice bio that come to us from the website of John Henry Newman College in Birmingham, England. So I presume they know a little bit about their patron, St. John Henry Newman. Also, I just, in terms of our celebrating on Sunday, I mentioned our connection to Newman Catholic Schools. I have a 20-year connection as a pastor of Newman Parish at UW Stevens Point. And then I was also a student and a student and then a regular parishioner at Newman Parish in Eau Claire. So I have a long time connection and affinity and appreciation for St. John Henry Newman. So that's part of my rationale for our celebrating his feast a little bit. We'll have mention of it when we gather on Sunday. A couple other things. I've been away for a couple of days, or was away for a couple of days this week, helping my parents move into a senior living facility in Marshfield. So if you recall, back on Ash Wednesday, I talked about them moving. Well, what I didn't explain then was that my dad had suffered a stroke in the process of their moving. And so for the last 7 months or so, my dad has been in a care center in Marshfield where he got remarkable care and made remarkable progress from where he had been after the stroke. And then my mom was living in the duplex that they had intended to move into together. They were in the process of moving when the stroke occurred. So our goal was to find a place where they could be together, and we found that place and they moved in. We finished unpacking and everything on Monday of this week. And so Tuesday morning, I stayed with them in their room on Monday night, just in case, because my dad needs some assistance with bathroom and things like that. And my mom in this new place and things. So I stayed in their room with them. Everything went fine on Monday night. Then Tuesday, we got a few other things taken care of. And as I was driving away, I thought, this is what it's like for parents who leave their kids off at college. And you wonder, how will they do? Will they make any friends? Will they like the food or whatever? So when I got back to Wausau, I checked in with my mom and they had lunch together and everything went fine. The food was good. My dad liked it because it was hot. That's a big thing with him. So my parents, this is something so many of our parishioners are experiencing. Our older parishioners have are like directly experiencing it. And I share it with you only because some people have asked, and I appreciate the prayer that so many have offered as well. And my mom and dad have been with us for Mass a couple times this summer. And hopefully that will happen again. Neither of them are able to drive at this point following the stroke and things, but hopefully there will be other opportunities for folks to bring them up and they'll be able to join us. They've always enjoyed coming and celebrating Mass. One of the things is they've always enjoyed and felt welcomed at the parishes where I've been. So thank you for helping them feel welcomed, and hopefully they'll be able to benefit from that welcome a few more times. Speaking of which, Father George Shevs was here this last weekend, longtime pastor of Newman Parish in Eau Claire, going to that Newman connection again. And there was a nice note in the house when I got back, thanking me for a good weekend, and saying what a great parish that we have. And that's, I've benefited from being in parishes where the priests who come and fill in for me have always enjoyed coming and filling in for me. Now, I guess we may all just think that that's just what priests do and we always enjoy it. Well, some communities are a little harder to relate to and have some attitudes and customs that aren't always that engaging or inviting. And so thank you for being a parish that priests want to come and celebrate Mass with us. They want to be part of this community. They want to gather at the table with us. I've had priests over the years who said, so when are you going to be gone again? Because I'm going to come in and fill in for you. So I appreciate that Father Shevs had a good experience here with all of you, and I hope it was a good experience for the parish as well, although I'm pretty confident that it would have been. Just a couple other things. Gabe Hurish is a guy I knew from Stevens Point. He grew up in that area. He moved away or gone away long before I got there, but he is now working as a missionary for Maryknoll, which is a wonderful community of priests, brothers, religious women, lay people who are involved in ministry and outreach into communities all over the world. And there probably are a few communities that are as sacrificial, where people really are sacrificing their lives, giving their lives to what they are about in this Maryknoll effort. And Gabe had an excellent reflection on the gospel of Lazarus and the rich man, which we heard at Mass a few weeks ago. I've included a link in the quick things. It'll also be printed in the bulletin the worship aid this coming Sunday, but the link is in the email. And we've encountered Gabe a few times over the years. I've included some updates from him in South Sudan, where he is currently doing ministry in some very adverse circumstances. And so just a great regard for him. And I thought he had an interesting perspective on that gospel. You may know we have a new place, a new home for the Sacrament of Reconciliation. The Reconciliation Room is complete. There's still a little work being done in the next adjacent room, which will be a vesting sacristy for myself as we prepare for mass. But the reconciliation room is done. So you come on into the church, you take some time in the pews to reflect, to prepare. And then the reconciliation room is what was the Blessed Sacrament Chapel right off the mezzanine area up the steps from the pews. And so, I guess if there are lots of people there, you might wait in line, but usually that is not the case as we gather at 9 a.m. on Saturday. So hopefully a very prayerful environment and a nice worthy space in which to celebrate the sacrament of reconciliation. Now open and ready to go as our ongoing, the few little final details of the renovation continue to be completed. And then finally, the kids at Newman St. Anne School are going to be raking in the neighborhood around our school and church. They're going to be doing that on October 27th. So if you could benefit from their efforts, raking at your house, or someone in the neighborhood who could benefit from that, please respond to the Quick Things email or call the school at 715-845-5754. And also going back to the very beginning when I was talking to Kendall, please take a moment to complete the survey. It is first in line after the video in the Quick Things email. And now to conclude with a prayer from St. John Henry Newman, really one of his most thoughtful and I think probably most impactful of the writings and prayers that he left. May the Lord support us all the day long, till the shadows lengthen and the evening comes and the busy world is hushed and the fever of life is over and our work is done. Then in his mercy, may God give us a safe lodging and holy rest and peace at the last. Amen. St. John Henry Newman, pray for us.